Welcome back to Bahamian Mathematics and our past paper question series. Today we will be working out BJC Paper 2, 1998, question number 20. And this is a graph question on coordinate geometry. And the question says, using the square of 1 centimeter to 1 unit, draw and label the x-axis from -6 to +6 and the y-axis from -2 to +10. So first of all, let's look at the x-axis. Sometimes it's hard to know where to start on a blank graph paper, and so we need to figure out where the x-axis is supposed to go. We know the x-axis runs from left to right, and if on the graph we need to label from -6 to +6, that means that we need -6, -5, -4, -3, -2, -1, 0, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And so on the left-hand side of the x-axis, we're going to need the negative numbers -1 to -6. And then on the right side of the x-axis, we will need +1 to +6. But where exactly do we draw the x-axis? High on the page, low on the page, in the middle of the page? Sometimes we're tempted to put the x-axis right in the middle of the page, and that is not always so. So let's hang on 1 second to see where we need to draw the x-axis, and take a look at the y-axis first. The y-axis we know runs up and down. Because we need equal amounts from -1 to -6 and +1 to +6, it means the y-axis needs to go in the middle. And so we're going to draw the y-axis first because we know that should separate the numbers on the x-axis right down the middle. And if we need values on the y-axis from -2 to +10, it means we only need on the y-axis -1 and -2. But we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 on the y-axis. So you can see how the numbers will look. So where do we draw the x-axis? We draw it here. So we have a few numbers in the negative region and a lot of numbers in the positive region on the y-axis. We need to place markings first on the axes, and so we'll start with the x-axis. Anything to the left of the y-axis on the x-axis are negative numbers. And so we're going to put our markings in place. Anything on to the right of the y-axis on the x-axis, those are the positive numbers, and we'll put our markings in place. And so we start -1, -2 going in this direction all the way to -6. And then on the positive side, we start with 1, 2, and all the way to 6. Each one of those markings is a centimeter. And now we'll work on placing marks on the x-axis, starting with the negative numbers. Here are the markings on the bottom, -1 and -2, and then we'll place on the top the positive numbers above the x-axis. Those are positive numbers. So we put our strokes on the lines to mark off the separations of centimeters, and we write 1, 2 going up all the way to 10. And now we have labeled our axes properly. And now we can go on to part B. We need now to plot and join various points, A, B, D, and G. In order to plot the points, we'll start with A. A is located at the point -4, 0. And so we locate in these coordinates the x-axis first. The first number is the x value, and that is the x-axis. So we look there and find -4, and here it is. The y value is 0, which means we don't move up or we don't move down. Here's the y-axis, and there's 0, so we don't move anywhere, and here's the point. -4, 0. That is point A. There it is, and we're done. And now let's move on to point B. Point B is located at 0. Here's 0 on the x-axis, and 10 is the y value. This means we go up 10 spaces, and that is our marking. We put an X there, and that is point B. And that is done. We have 2 points. Now we're going to join A and B, and we get that out of the way. Now let's look at the next point, point D. Point D is located at 5. That's the x value first. And then 9, the y value, is next. So here's 5 on the x-axis. It's a +5. And we go up 9. That's a +9. And here is our third point. We place an x there, and that is point D. And now we join them again from B to D. So we can see a shape that is starting to form. Now let's look at point G, which is located at 6 and -2. Here's 6 on the x-axis, that's our first value, And y value is -2, which means we have to go down 2 spaces. And there's our point now at 6, -2. That is our point G. There it is. And now we connect D to G, and our shape is almost done. We have to now connect the 2 points, the first and the last point, A to G, and there's our shape. And so we have now all of our points plotted, and we've connected all of the points. And part C says, draw in the diagonal BG. Well, that requires first, we need to find point B and G. Here's B, and here's G, and the diagonal just means to draw a line from one point to the next. So we go from B to G, and there is our diagonal. Part D says, to reflect the shape DGB in the y-axis. If we think of the word reflect, we can imagine a mirror, and whatever is in front of the mirror is also seen in the mirror. And we're reflecting in the y-axis. If we imagine this is the y-axis, and we have a star on the right side, here is our reflection point, or the mirror, or in this case it's the y-axis. We have to determine how far the distance is from that star to the mirror, or in this case the y-axis, so that our image could be that same distance on the other side. And this is a reflection, and we need to do this to the shape DGB. So first we locate the y-axis. Here it is. And now we find DGB, one point at a time, and we reflect it in the y-axis. So let's find point D. Here it is. And D is at 0.59. And D is 5 units away from the y-axis. So we need to count 5 units away from the y-axis in the other direction, and that is our next point, which we will call D1. So D1 is located, if we look down, we can see that it's at -5, and if we look across, we can see it's at 9. And if you notice the difference between the original point and the reflected point, because we reflected it in the y-axis, the y value stays the same, but the x value has changed to its opposite. So the opposite of 5 is -5, and that's how reflections work in the y-axis. Let's find point G now. Here is point G. We need to reflect that in the y-axis. Point G is located at 6 -2. And so G is 6 units from the y-axis, and its reflection has to be 6 units away from the y-axis. And there is our reflection, G1. Now let's find out where that is. G1 is at, if we look up, we can see it hits the x-axis at -6. And if we look to the right, we can see that the y value is -2. Again, look at G and G1. We can see that the y values are the same, but the x value has gone to -6 from 6. It has taken on its opposite because we reflected it in the y-axis. Now let's look at the last point, point B. Here's point B. It has the coordinates of 0 and 10. And we want to reflect that in the y-axis. Well, B is sitting on the y-axis, and so we have nowhere to reflect it. It stays in the same position, and that gives us B1. And so we're going to join now all of the points from D1 to G1, G1 to B1, and back to D1. And here is our reflection. And here is the original image. And here is the reflected image. And you can see that they look like the mirror that we looked at a little while ago, the original shape and the image in the mirror. And if you want to see questions worked out just like this one, make sure to subscribe, like, and share to Bahamian Mathematics.